Let's call the meeting to order. It's time now, 7:31 p.m. Good evening, all. It's Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024. This is the meeting of the Municipal Land Use Board of the Borough of River Edge. This meeting of the Municipal Land Use Board of the Borough of River Edge is being held remotely and recorded via Zoom due to Borough Council chambers unavailability and is in compliance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act and associated regulations. Notice of this meeting was published in the Bergen Record, posted on the front doors of Borough Hall, and posted on the borough's website. The notice included the dial-in and login information necessary for public participation and access to this meeting remotely. Copy of the agenda for this meeting was made available on the borough's website near the posting of the meeting notice and included the dial-in and login information. During the public comment period of this meeting, if you would like to make a public comment, please press the raise hand button on Zoom or dial *9 on your telephone keypad to raise your hand. The board will address you by name or by the last 4 digits of your telephone number. You may mute and unmute yourself by pressing the microphone icon on Zoom or dialing *6 on your telephone keypad. You must state your name and address prior to making a public comment. For the record, as a matter of housekeeping, we're going to impose a curfew this evening at 9:45 p.m. And with that, I will ask Ms. Steinle to call the roll, please.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor,
Here.
Mr. Caslin,
Here.
Ms. Boland,
Here.
Mr. Merman,
Here.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Here.
Mr. Cray,
Here.
Mr. Kanigo,
Here.
Councilman Glass,
Here.
Mr. Gibbons,
Here.
and Mr. Bastide.
He's absent.
Absent tonight. Okay. And tonight we have Mr. Zabo for Burgess, our board planner, and Mr. Costa is also here. And Mr. Depkin, our zoning official.
Okay.
Hello, all.
Good evening. All right. Our first item on the agenda this evening is under the approval of minutes. We have draft minutes for our meeting of April 24th, 2024, which was circulated prior to this evening's meeting for review of the board. I open the floor to comment or questions on the draft minutes as provided.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Merman.
I have one typo, but we need to correct it. On the April 24th minutes, on page 7, Lisa, the first line reads, Ms. Steinle swears in the landlord, yada, 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 as the managing partner for you have Hanover Realty. The name of the realty is really Hannah, Hanna. Did you get that?
Okay, Hanna?
Yeah, that instead of Hanover, that's the name of the realty.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, I'll change it.
That's it. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Merman. Any other questions or comments on the board? Okay, there being none, I'll look for a motion on the minutes, please.
Move to accept them as written.
Thank you, Mr. Cray. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Ms. Boland. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain?
Mr. Pfeffer was absent.
Mr. Pfeffer was absent. Okay, let the record reflect that. Next item under approval of minutes this evening is our minutes of our meeting from May 8th, 2024. Draft of the minutes was circulated to the board prior to this evening's meeting. Open it to the board for comments and questions.
Mr. Chairman,
I
this
did
is
have
the-
one.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Merman, you can go ahead.
Okay, one quick one. On the, this is the May 8th minutes, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. On the Bertini application, the address is shown as 813 Kinderkamak. It's really 851 Kinderkamak.
831, Mr. Merman.
All right. Well, now let me just see. Well, it's not, what is the correct address? I have the correct address as 851.
It's 831.
Okay, well, we're
I don't have
showing
it in front- I don't have it in front of me, but I'm 99% certain it's 831.
Okay, Well, right now it's shown as 8:31, so it's gotta be corrected either way.
Right.
That's all.
So
Okay.
we'll just
I'm-
reflect that that'll be corrected with the
Right.
accurate address.
Okay.
Ms. Steinle?
And then on the first page, Ms. Boland is marked as excused, but she was present.
Okay.
Okay. With
Okay,
those,
I'll make those changes.
okay, any further comments,
Thank you.
questions from the board? Okay, with those revisions, I'll look for a motion to approve the minutes, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Boland. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Pfeffer. Ms. Steinle, anybody?
The mayor, the councilman, they were absent that meeting, excused.
Okay, so with those exceptions, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed, any abstain? Okay, thanks very much. Next item on our agenda this evening, we're gonna move under completeness review. The first item is Hang Zhang Inc. Property is 900 Kinderkamak Road. This is block 209, lot 21. A proposed Chinese food takeout, seeking site plan approval for a food handler's license. Ms. Steinle.
Thank you. Prior to the meeting, I reviewed the proof submitted by the applicant's attorney and found them to be sufficient for the board to have jurisdiction over the application tonight.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. Mr. Zabo.
There we go.
All right.
There we go. My understanding is that this is a change of use between tenancy, but not change of use in terms of what's going to operate there. It's going to be a Chinese takeout. It is that now. It will be continuing that use. My understanding is that there are no site improvements that are contemplated. All existing conditions are present, will not change. Parking is located behind the building. The only questions that we have is signage to ensure that they are going to replace the existing sign in a manner that is conforming. I did take a look at the site itself. I didn't see any improvements or maintenance issues other than there's an exposed dumpster behind the building. If there's an opportunity to screen that, that would be recommended. Otherwise, there's very little room for any other kinds of improvements or relocating of that facility.
Okay, anything from your perspective that would hold us up from deeming this complete tonight?
No, I do not. I think there's adequate information to proceed.
Okay, okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Costa?
Same thing, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everybody. I would say yes, it can proceed to a public hearing.
Okay, thank you, sir. Questions or comments from the board on completeness of this application? Okay, I will look for a motion on deeming this application complete, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons. Is there a second?
Second.
I think I got Mr. Cray before Ms. Boland. Okay. Ms. Steinle, when you're
Alright.
ready.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Kanigo,
Yes.
Councilman Glass,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Our next item under completeness review this evening, the applicant is Martin Moline. Property is 800 Summit Avenue. This is block 206, lot 11. Application seeking approval for a proposed pool house, pergola, outdoor kitchen with existing garage guest studio, seeking a variety of variances. Ms. Steinle.
Yes, thank you. Prior to this meeting, I reviewed the proof submitted by the applicant's attorney and found them to be sufficient for the board to hear the application tonight.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Zabo.
There's some additional items that I think can be testified to by the applicant in terms of some of the improvements. We have questions regarding lighting, the possibility of landscaping, et cetera. Also some compliance issues with respect to some of the impervious coverage and accessory combination of uses. So that could also be testified to by the applicant in terms of their presentation.
Okay, otherwise, no issues from a completeness standpoint?
I believe that there's sufficient information to at least proceed with the public hearing. The board can always request additional information as it deems necessary to make an informed decision on the application as it proceeds during the course of the public hearing.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Costa.
Same. I concur, Mr. Chairman. I would say it could certainly go to a public hearing, and then I think you're gonna need some testimony on this. There's a few questions as far as the adjacent building, how that's gonna perform if this is approved, and excuse me, the sewer and a couple other items in there, but that can certainly be brought out into testimony.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Questions from the board on completeness? Okay, there being none, I'll look for a motion to deem the application complete.
Move.
Thank you, Mr. Kenigo. Is there a second?
Second.
I am Mr. Pfeffer by a hair. Ms. Steinle, when you're ready.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Castellan,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
yes,
Mr. Merman,
yes,
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yep.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Kenigo,
Yes.
Councilman Glass, and Mr. Gibbons.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay, thank you all. We're going to move now into the new business section of our agenda this evening. The first item is Hang Zhang Inc., 900 Kinder Kamak Road, Block 209, Lot 21. This is a proposed Chinese food takeout seeking site plan approval for a food handler's license. Good evening, Mr. Barrett.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As you have heard from Mr. Zabo, there are no changes to the site being proposed. It is simply the case of Mr. Zhang having purchased the business from the prior owner. Nevertheless, because of your ordinance, site plan approval is required because Mr. Zhang needs to obtain a food handler's license. He is making some slight changes. He's going to be replacing some of the equipment, but in place, it's going to be the same size as what's there because some of the equipment is old and doesn't function properly. As to the signage, I've submitted the proposed sign, and the actual boxes will need to be replaced because they're malfunctioning when it rains. The lighting will not work, so there's some kind of a short in there. But it's the same size as currently exists both on the front and on the side. If my arithmetic is correct, I believe that each of the signs is 13.32 square feet. The ordinance permits box signs to be, the principal one to be 18 square feet. And if the property's on a corner, the second sign can be 9 square feet. Those signs have existed for many, many years. It's right down the street from my office, and I don't remember the place being without those signs. But be that as it may, I think that technically a variance would be required because the sign on the side street is 4.32 feet larger than is permitted. However, if we were to add the two signs together, whereas 27 square feet is permitted, it comes up to 26.64 square feet. So the total's okay, it's just that they're not broken up the way the ordinance requires. The applicant does plan on adding 2 tables of 4 in the event anybody would want to have their meal in the store itself. You'll hear from Mr. Zhang, and he will tell you that basically they anticipate the primary business is the takeout, as it has been for many years. And again, I'll have him testify to this, but deliveries will be by DoorDash or one of those services that delivers food. And then we'll have, we also have present with us tonight the landlords who are trustees of a trust that owns the property, and that would be Danielle Kukuza and her brother David Kukuza. And they're probably the ones best suited to address the location of the dumpster. as it may interfere with either parking or the other tenants. But without further ado, and we do have with us tonight also Wenru Lin, who is a translator because Mr. Zhang is speaks a little English, but for purposes of the hearing, we all thought it would be better if Ms. Lin translated for him. Mr. Zhang is also accompanied by his wife, however, Ming-Zing Liu, who may also testify. So I would ask that the three of them be sworn in, and maybe the landlords as well all at once. It's up to the board as they see fit to do that.
Why don't we go ahead and get everybody sworn in that way in case, we do need to defer to somebody, we don't have to go through the formality later. So Ms. Steinle, I'll ask you to do the honors, please.
All right, so everyone just needs to have their video on. And if you please raise your right hand. I'll need the applicants to have their video on.
Mr. Zhang?
韩跟那个明星，你们的视频要打开，然后举手是为了发誓，是说真话的吧？
There we go. So if you please raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
就是这些说的都是真实的哈。你们
Yes.
yes
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
and for the interpreter, do you swear that the interpretation that you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, and then I'll just have to have everyone provide their name and address for the record.
Mr. Zhang, why don't you go first, through Ms. Lin if necessary, name and address.
Miss Zhang can go first, right?
Yes, Mr. Zhang first.
Okay, then our address, right?
Name and address, yeah.
Okay. 张涵，你说一下你的名字跟你的地址。张涵
My name is Dan. Restaurant is 900 Road.
Sorry, are you in the same room?
你们在同一个房间吗？张涵跟那个明星
Right.
So
？Yes,
there's
they
an
are.
echo.
Yeah, they are in the same room. 他说你们有杂音，所以他有点听不清楚你们说话，因为你们两个在同一个房间，他有那个传音。你们坐在一起去吗？
But would it be possible, Mr. Zhang and Ms. Liu to share the one device? And this way Ms. Liu could turn hers off and you wouldn't have the feedback?
OK， 所以明星，你能不能把你的视频关掉？你跟张涵坐到一起去，这样子就不会有杂音，因为你们后面有传音，他们听不到张涵的回答。你们俩坐到一起去做，一起回答，把你的视频关掉。然后声音开大点。OK。
You need to turn your machine.
你们的视频是倒的，能不能倒过来
There we go. Very good. All right. So, Mr. Zhang, during my introduction, I indicated that the restaurant, you're not proposing any changes to the restaurant other than to replace some of the equipment which isn't performing as it should be. Is that correct?
OK， 他说你的就是建议的那个餐馆基本都没有改变，只有一些就是你们的机器呀、就是昨天说的那个冰箱，就是说那些机器呀、或者说就是这些东西改变，其他都没有改变，对不对？他问你。
Right. Correct.
Okay. And then you'd like to add 2 tables of 4 in case people wanted to actually dine in the store. Is that correct?
他说你是不是要加就是2张桌子4个椅子的那个昨天说的那个，然后呢就是为了有人来的时候吃，但是你们还是做就是说还是做外卖的，但是只是有人来的时候用的，对吗？
Correct.
And that you anticipate that most of your business will be takeout, and you'll also though offer a delivery through DoorDash or one of the other food delivery services available. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, he got it.
And how will you have your food products delivered to the premises?
嗯
In other words, what type of a service is used to, to obtain your food?
什么样的服务去就是could you say it again? Let me explain. I can explain.
No
better.
problem. I believe that in our discussion yesterday, when we discussed food deliveries, products that will be used in the cooking, that Mr. Zhang, you indicated that the deliveries take place by minivan. Is that correct?
就是送货的是用那个小型的就是那个货车，对吗？
Correct.
就是收货的。
And there are no large trucks that would be delivering to the premises. Is that correct?
没有大卡车，对吗？
Correct.
Okay. And typically they would occur a couple of times a week around noontime?
在什么时间？昨天有提到。你回答一下昨天送货的时间。
As Wednesday and Friday at 12 p.m.
Okay, Wednesday, Friday, 12 p.m. usually.
Thank you. And that you anticipate that garbage pickup will occur every Monday morning?
就是每一个星期一的早上，就是大概7点之前，就是有那个垃圾车来拉扯，就是拿走垃圾嘛。就是你会参与这样，就是说来帮，就是说这个事情，对吗？
我会参与，我不参与。
是的，
就是你就回答是的。
Correct.
Okay. And that and you had how many employees do you anticipate having?
你会有多少个员工？
3个。
3个。
3.
Okay. And if they were to drive to the location, where would they park?
他们会开车吗？他们趴车趴在哪里？
不开车。
他们没有开车，然后他们趴车就趴在旁边的那条街上。
没有开车哪里来车？
对。
They don't drive, so they don't need the parking.
I'm sorry.
The employee don't drive, so they don't need the parking.
I understand. Okay. And Mr. Zhang, yourself, where do you intend to park your vehicle?
你自己的车就停在哪里？
街道上。
停在旁边的街道上。
Their own vehicle will parking in the side of the street.
In order to leave room for customers and for the patrons of the other stores.
就是为了就是能够把那个停车场让给你的就是那个客人来停，对吗？
Correct. Correct.
Thank you. I think a couple of the other questions are better directed to the landlords. So for the time being, I'm concluded with asking Mr. Zhang questions. Of course, he's going to remain, and if the board, Mr. Chairman, however you wish to do it, question him now or wait until I have the landlords testify as to the couple of other items.
Why don't you continue with the testimony, Mr. Barrett, and we'll take questions later on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Mr. or Ms. Kukuza, one of the questions raised by Mr. Costa in his review letter is whether there are any parking agreements between the tenants with respect to the use of the spaces in the rear of the property?
So each of the tenants is instructed that parking is only for customers and that they're not to park in the parking lot. So that's the agreement, and that's what, you know, the three contracts or three leases state that. So they are not supposed to park there.
Because there's only about 5 spaces, right, in the back?
Correct. So we don't want them to be, you know, basically making it tough and inconveniencing the customers. It's parking is only for the customers of the three buildings, the three tenants. I'm sorry, clients.
And the board also, and as did Mr. Zabo, we're wondering about relocating the dumpster. Maybe you could speak to that issue. I believe the former Chinese restaurant also had a dumpster for
The
many years.
dumpster, yes, the dumpster has been in that spot for the past 30, I don't even know how long it's been there, as long as it's been a restaurant. There really is not a place to relocate without blocking the stairs or blocking parking.
Right.
The
Dave,
other-
Dave, I'm sorry to cut in. Zhang moved it, so we have to put it back to where it was, the original place. Which they're asking us to do. The original spot is on the corner of the staircase and Bloomfield Ave. And that's where
Right.
it should go back.
Well, I
Right,
think-
right.
Actually, I think what was being recommended was that it be located further away from Bloomfield Avenue. So further into the property, and I think you just testified that there's no room for it any place further in on the property.
According to the site plan, it says to be relocated there. Is
No,
that,
no,
do you want to move it? The borough wants to move it? There's no
the
place.
borough's asking if it's possible to
Yeah.
move it further, if there's any place for it.
Because then it would be very difficult for any of the patrons to get in and out. That dumpster needs to be there really early in the morning to pick it up.
And is there any way to screen the one side, say the south side, between the dumpster and the street?
Without
Tight.
measuring the dumpster and the space, it's hard to say. It's a pretty tight space. I'm not sure if there's an alternate dumpster, that would fit better.
Right now, it's a small dumpster. I really highly doubt there's a way of screening it in.
Yeah, it's pretty small.
I would agree that, parking is probably the premium priority on the site. Looking at the images that I have, without a detailed measurement, there's really not much room to move it. I was thinking maybe the opposite corner, but that's up to the board. It's not a major issue because it's not, again, not changing the current situation.
I don't
Just
have
food
any
for thought.
further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barrett. Mr. Zabo, why don't we, if you have any further questions?
Yeah, I have a concern. How many tables are there now? None?
Ms.
Are there?
Lin? Ms. Lin, could you ask Mr. Zhang that question?
OK，张涵，他这个人叫 John， 这个人问你，就是你目前你的那边那个桌子有几张了？他就是问你这个问题。
一张都
啊？
一张都没有。
现在没有桌子，我们还没，现在桌子还没送到，就是我们
不是，就是说他本来就是那边已经有多少张桌子，你不是加2张吗？
他原来一张桌子都没有。
Okay, so they said there's no any tables there, and then they just want to add 2. It says 2 tables.
Right.
Pictures.
Okay.
How many seats are associated with those 2 tables?
多少个那个椅子？就是
4张椅子，就是2张桌子，8张椅子。
8张椅子，对不对？
一个桌子4张椅子。
Yeah. So they said 1 table, 4 chairs. So it will be 8 chairs total. in total.
Okay. The reason I raised this as a question for the board's consideration is that under the parking standards, under your site plan ordinance 35025, there's a parking requirement associated with seats. There are no tables and seats there now. If you add 8 tables, 8 seats at 2.5 parking spaces per seat, that impacts the parking calculation for the site. The representation made to the board was we're going to occupy it as a Chinese takeout, which is, I acknowledge it's the primary business, but by adding the seats, that changes the circumstances and now triggers a parking review based upon the ordinance requirements for tables and seats. And something that we need to resolve one way or another because there's already only 5 spaces there. The other problem with that is that people stay longer and occupy the parking spaces longer when they eat in. This site probably operated fine as a takeout exclusively, but now we're adding another dimension to the use. So I wanted to just throw that out there for the board's consideration.
Chairman, also there needs to be a requirement for bathroom facilities if you're going to have indoor seating.
Thank you, Mr. Depkin. Any further questions from your perspective?
No, I think they've been hit.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Mr. Costa, anything from you?
The only thing, Mr. Chairman, I mean, I'm going back many moons ago, years ago. This site, grease traps, and I believe, if I remember correctly, we made the owners put in grease traps because we did have an issue on Bloomfield with that. And actually, the DEP was actually involved in that many years ago when John Pastrello was there. Just to make sure that they're operational, they're working. Again, that'll go back to Steve, I'm sure. But that was a pretty big issue some years ago.
So I think, if I may, Ms. Lin, if you'd ask Mr. Zhang, are there grease traps currently on the premises, and how will they be maintained?
Sorry, can you say it again?
Surely. If you could ask whether or not there are currently grease traps on the premises, and how does he plan to maintain them? I think he'll be familiar with what that is. It's called a grease trap. It catches it. Rob, if I'm correct, it's in the sink, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I forget. Like I said, it's a while ago, but I know it was an issue, and I don't remember exactly what they installed, but.
Would it just so I know from my own knowledge,
if he doesn't know what the grease trap is, that's more troubling. Let's say that. So just say, does he have one and does he maintain it? That's all you need to ask him.
Mr. Chairman, I get the sense that the problem here, and I know a little bit about the language. The problem here might be that there's not a direct translation for the word grease trap. So if we can just rephrase it, perhaps to maybe describe what a grease trap is or a grease trap does, and then I'm sure Ms. Lin could translate that, as opposed to trying to translate the word grease trap. There may not be a direct translation for that.
Rob, would it be more like a filter, or is that not very accurate either?
It's not accurate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, can we just ask him if he knows, because he has responded in English a couple of times. Mr. Zhang, do you know what a grease trap is?
他问你，就是说那个就是洗碗机的就是洗碗的地方的下面，就是那种像下水道这样子的规模，你有多大？
规模，这个怎么讲？
什么？
他就说洗碗的，
就是那个洗碗的下面那种
下面那个
下水道的管道的这样子。
下水道那个规模有多大？
有3根管道，就是有3个 sink， 然后3个管道下去。 带到通水道，然后那个sink大概差不多有1米左右。
1米左右。So I'm not sure am I translate oh Tina's there. Am I translated exactly correct about the grease?
What do we, all right, let's make it, I'll make it easy. Why don't we do, if the board approves it, just put, if you can, Marina, just put something in the resolution that it would be subject to making sure it's there and making sure it's operation.
And maybe does the landlord have any information on whether a grease trap is there? Or when the past tenant moved out, was there any sort of inspection done?
有2
I think.
I don't, honestly, I don't have any because we, like, our parents actually we just inherited it in the past 2 years, taking over. Since my father passed a couple, 18 years ago, I don't know anything about that because we were younger. But maybe Zhang's sister Tina, she speaks very well in English. I see she just got on and she runs a restaurant. Maybe she can translate that.
She would have to be sworn at this point.
Okay, and I didn't give you my address too. I don't know if you need it. Do you need it?
Yeah, sorry, we skipped over that, but if
Yeah.
you could give your address for the
So
record.
I'm 458 East Ridgewood Avenue, Paramus. And my brother is 154 DeMott Lane in Somerset.
I'm wondering if oil might be easier. I don't know if grease, when the translation, maybe oil, cooking
Collection?
oil, or
This is very simple. It's so that grease doesn't go into our water system, right? So,
Right.
so Mr. Zhang should know this. I mean, just every kitchen has one of these. So that can we just ask Mr. Zhang if he knows whether there is a system to prevent the grease from the cooking to go into the water supply?
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I probably got some. They told me they have a 3 sink. Each sink have the pipe like 1 meter, so should be enough.
No. Does it catch the grease before it goes into the water supply?
Chairman.
Not the water
it
supply,
might,
it's the
might not be
sewer.
an accurate description, but a
nothing to do with the
sewer
water supply.
clean out.
It's a sewer, if it goes into
It's
a
a
sewer.
Sewer clean out.
It's a sewer.
It's not accurate, but it might help.
Mr.
define.
Barrett, would
Yeah.
you like to swear in Mr. Zhang's sister,
sister.
Tina?
Please, yes.
Tina, if you could please unmute and just raise your right hand.
现在不在。
Tina is there.
在
Tina 你在
他没有
听得见吗？对，他要你，他要你就是举手，就是说你同意，就是真实的，你的就是所有说的话是真实的，他要你 swear 一下，
So I'll swear you in. If you please raise your right hand.
然后你就
Do
可
you
以把你弟
swear?
弟说话。
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Good evening, Tina. Have you heard the discussion? The question is whether or not there are grease traps on the premises. And we're having difficulty translating that, apparently. Are you familiar with what a grease trap is?
Yeah, I think so. As far as I know, their restaurant still using the existing grease trap, which is under the basement.
Okay, so there is one there. To your knowledge.
Yeah. Let me talk to my brother. 然後我伊講你迄落伊吼垃圾油迄落伊，是講垃圾油迄落，因為過濾去垃圾油迄落，你迄安尼是甲底下咧。
冇啦。
冇啦底下咧。
伊講互伊要唔使唔搞遐水互伊，是喏水管的哦。
我知道他說什麼Yes, they confirmed for me the grease track to collect the restaurant oil. It's under the basement.
Thank you.
That's how I operate the restaurant every day. I'm very familiar with the restaurant because I operate the restaurant for many years.
Thank you. All right. And then also, though, at this point, there's been a concern raised that by adding the tables, it's going to impact not only the parking, but also then the requirement that there be restroom facilities for the public. Would he be willing to forego those tables at this time and just operate the business as it has been as a takeout business?
你帮我翻译一下，他刚才那个说什么？再说一次。
OK，我来是吗？张涵他说的意思是说，你加了2张桌子，还有8张椅子，这个会带来那个就是外面停车的负担，也就是说你人数就是桌子多了，人就多了嘛，客人就多了，那他外面的 parking 就是外面的那个停车不够，然后这个要怎么办？然后他说，如果你想要开店，他应该就说你想要开店，可不可以这个桌子可能先不加这样子？
那我们可以不加桌子，当我们摆8张椅子给客人来拿取的时候，他在等待的过程中，他可以坐一下。
哦，你说桌子可以拿走 ，OK。So, Miss Tom, they said they can take away the tables, but can they put the couple chairs, the 8 chairs there? When the customer come to pick up the delivery, they can sit down to wait.
I don't think there's any objection to that. Mr. Zabo, would you have a comment on that? Or?
Yeah, and also I want to add a comment because as far as I know, for the previous business owner, China Garden, he used to put 2 tables and 8 chair in the living room, and which has no problem with the customer because their business is very slow. Usually they don't even use much. So for my opinion, it's not a problem for the customer traffic and the parking.
还有
But
洗手间，
if the
还有洗
city
手间，他说也会影响洗手间，有用。
洗手间。So my opinion is this is not a big problem because previous owner China Garden, he operate the restaurant this way for over almost like 20 years. So I don't think this is the problem. But if the town not allow us put 2 tables, this is no problem. We can cooperate everything with the government, with the town, whatever they required.
Perhaps, I don't know if the board would be willing to allow, as an experiment, to allow 1 table with 4 chairs and see if it has any negative impact on the site. And if it does, then that would be removed. Perhaps a test period of 3 months or something like that. And if
they have no problem. They can remove, but maybe it's a good idea. And they can leave some share for customer waiting area for the takeout orders.
Mr. Zabo,
Mr. Chair,
yeah,
Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I don't have a strong objection to chairs because people, get there 5 minutes early. They have to sit, they wait. I think a condition of approval could be a restriction against table service and sit down table service, that the chairs are limited to simply waiting customers. I can't speak to the prior history of the tables that has been represented were there before. I can't represent that. I don't know. I'm just merely pointing out that there's an intensification with the tables associated with the parking as per your ordinance. If the board feels that you would like to experiment with this, the problem I have with that, having done a lot of code enforcement in my past municipal life, monitoring that, Mr. Debkin will have to sit out there and then maybe or respond to complaints, and it becomes almost an enforcement issue. My philosophy has always been uses should be self-regulating, and so if the board determines that it's operated with tables and chairs and it's okay, and if you have that knowledge and there's testimony to that effect and you accept it, okay, let's move on. Otherwise, I'm really pointing out a technical application of the code because the representation of the board was we're not making any changes. And then when I hear the word adding tables, and that sparked my interest, and that's why I related the ordinance. So I just wanted to make the board aware of all the requirements and conditions so that you can make an informed decision.
Okay. Mr. Depkin?
Again, restroom are a requirement. Looking at some of the photos that they had presented, I think there's a a restroom through the kitchen all the way to the rear of the building. And I don't know if that is adequate for customers.
黄衣可以啊，電風聽嘅。
那个张涵，明星他们是问你那个有一个厕所，就是在那个厨房跟就是那个反正有个厕所在那里面通过的地方，对吗？然后就是够不够这个客人来用？就是说，如果一个厕所，如果你加，反正就是刚刚他们的就是担心的地方，就是如果你加了椅子、桌子啊，客人多了，那这个厕所就是洗手间可能就不够用。然后呢，
就是第一个问题就是我们主要是做外卖的，或者他们来 pick up 的，我们放着椅子，仅是他们可以就是来取餐的时候，可以放一点东西，或者坐在那里休息一下，但是他们并不会在这里谈吃。
Chairman, again, I'm sorry. So during the zoning review, this was to be a sort of turnkey operation with no changes. So it appears that they're making changes on some items.
So again, then, Ms. Lynn, I think that it based on the questions and the comments that have been made, it would be best to eliminate the tables at this time. And yes, they're allowed to have some chairs for their customers to sit waiting to take their order out. That would be permitted. So if you could just explain that to Mr. Zhang.
OK， 他们意思是说，就是你可以放几个椅子，让客人坐一下，只是 take out，但是最好不要加什么太多的椅子、桌子，因为你这样子会让他们没办法就是批你，就是说洗手间不够，而且你说洗手间客人基本不会用，但是他们我都还没跟他们说，就是如果你让不让客人用，然后还有一个是就是外面的。就外面的 parking，就是外面的停车的地方就不够，这样子，然后他们就说就几张椅子可以吗？
可以啊，我们就不放桌子，放几张椅子就行。
你们
放一个桌子4张椅子就行了嘛？就撤掉椅子。
他们就说，如果按照他们的，就放几个椅子让别人坐，就是那也没问题。
可以，
你就直接跟他说，就是放椅子，按照他们的来说就放椅子，桌子我们先不用。等这个过了，我们到时候我们自己可以那个。
需不需要问他要几张，允许几张吗？
那但是有一个问题，他要给我们一张桌子来放，比如说我们已经打包好的 order， 那他们要来 pick up 的时候，我要有一个桌子来放这个 order 啊。
I hate to. This started with a grease trap. We're up to a table. It's supposed to be.
Yeah, no,
I think we're getting so far off. Now we got a conversation going between 4 people.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm trying to figure out a nice part to intervene here without offending anybody.
This is why I'm always the bad guy everywhere.
No, you're not the bad guy here. So let me do this. We need to hear from the board on this application. So let me go around and hear from the board, if I may. Mr. Cray, I'm going to ask to start with you.
Okay, I guess I have I walk by this building every day because I walk my dog up that street, up Bloomfield. Yeah. And I see that dumpster, and I've been looking at it every day for an awfully long time, and it's an eyesore. It's right on the corner. It's right visible for anybody coming up or down that street. And I'd really like to hear if there would be some commitment to try to get some sort of screening around that, because it's really unattractive. And I can't imagine that there isn't some way to get that screened a little bit just to improve it. As far as access into the lot, the entire lot is a huge curb cut, so there shouldn't be any problem with traffic coming in or out of the lot itself. So I think I'd like to hear whether there'd be some commitment to addressing that.
Start.
Mr. and Ms. Kakuza, would you attempt to, a fence perhaps along the south side there? Because obviously you need access to the dumpster to be picked up. but it would just be on the one side, so that at least it wouldn't be visible. You know, it'd still be visible if you're walking up the street. Unfortunately, you'd see the front of it, but you wouldn't see the side of it. I don't know how much more fully screened it could be than that.
Yeah, I would say, without knowing the dimensions that we were dealing with between the dumpster, the side of the building, and the edge of the fire escape, or the back metal, that's a diamond plate, or what do you want to call it, the metal, fire escape or stairs. I would say yes, we would look to screen it. I just don't know how much space we have with the existing dumpster, or if we have to change the dumpster so that we can accommodate a screen, but yes.
Okay, that's all I had.
Okay, Mr. Pfeffer?
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to take a stab at clarifying this table and chairs issue. And I would do that by first asking the applicant through the translator, please. We just need a direct answer, if possible, concise, direct answer. If there is a concern about having tables in the business because of government regulations, is the applicant willing to not have tables in the establishment and only have chairs for the purpose of having customers wait for their order to be ready?
Based on they told me before, they agree.
Okay.
They agree. And they say they just want some chair to be there, and the customer can come to wait and sit there wait. But if the board can, they hope they can have one table. Even like they can put a to-go order the food on the table for customer come to pick up. The table is for the food, not totally. The customer can sit down. Customer doesn't need to sit down.
So there would be one table simply to serve as sort of a counter, where the food would be left.
Yes.
And I presume the food would be in a bag.
Yes.
Okay. So
take out. Yes.
Nobody would be allowed to sit at the table and eat the food. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And I want to make sure, or I want to hear whether they understand the reason for this issue to come up, or this question to come up, is because once they start serving food in the restaurant, it raises questions about parking, and it also raises questions about bathroom access. If they don't serve food in the restaurant, and people cannot sit down and eat in the restaurant, then we don't have those issues about parking and bathroom access. Do they understand that?
Okay. 他们问，你们是否会理解，就是说，如果就是说不要桌子的原因，是因为你桌子一摆下去，客人一坐下来吃，你的一个是洗手间，你们可能会不够用，会影响。然后第二个就是外面的趴车，别人等也要就坐在那里等，那趴车位就会站着就不够。就反正就影响了，一个是趴车，一个是洗手间的用，所以呢，你们都明白这个，所以不能摆桌子，意思是说不能摆那个吃的，就是让客人坐下来吃的桌子，可以吗？你们那个没打开，你们的，
就是说我们可以来放东西，就是不可以给他们来吃，是不是？可以的，没有问题。
Okay, so they agree, say they don't put a table for customers sit down to eat, but they want to have a table to put the food on, like a wrap food to take out food on the table just for like you say counter. They're okay. They agree with that.
So food would be left on the table in a bag for people to pick up the food and leave the restaurant, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
They agree with that. Yeah.
Okay.
And Mr. Pfeffer, I've seen that arrangement in similar situations in other towns where there's a little table, people come in, grab the bag, they prepay and they leave.
Yeah,
no,
absolutely.
Don't need to, sit down to eat. Don't need to dine in here.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. I have no other questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pfeffer. Ms. Boland?
Back to the dumpster. I'm just wondering if you turned the dumpster would it still be, it doesn't look like it would extend any further than where the dumpster is now, and then you'd have room to put a fence up at least along Bloomfield. That's my only comment.
Okay.
We could look into that. I'll have my brother look into it with myself. Where did my brother go?
Yeah,
Oh, there he
but
is.
my-
Yeah, we could look into that.
Yeah, my only concern, I will definitely look into this. I just don't know if it's on casters or if it roll, you know what I mean? Like if it would roll in and out, and if if the garbage truck will be able to get in and out. But yes, we'll look into that.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
I agree with all the comments that have been offered so far about the table being only used for placement, not for eating. I agree with the comments that have been made about the fencing. Also, I don't think this has been mentioned. I have no problem with the signage as long as the replacement fits in the same box. So I'm good.
Okay, thank you, sir. Councilman?
I met with the mayor, what the mayor just said. Mr. Chairman, I would like to say though, that this has been very inefficient. And I think there's a lack of clarity with respect to the communications. And what I would like to suggest, and I really don't want to, continuing this process to me is not efficient. And there, again, I think there's a lack of clarity. So what I suggest is moving forward, we provide our concerns to Mr. Barrett. And instead of all this back and forth and translating, that Mr. Barrett provides us with responses in a timely manner when he's prepared to. And then we can make a decision on how to move forward. Continuing this process to me is very inefficient. It's a waste. It's not a productive, efficient use of our time as a board.
What issues in your mind are still open, Councilman Glass?
Sorry?
What issues are still open in your mind that haven't been addressed yet at this point?
What's the plan with the fencing? What's the plan with the waste container? What exactly, what type of table? Where's the table going to be? How many seats, are there not going to be seats? Do they understand what the regulations are? And, what the concern is about how having a table affects the number of parking spaces. Is there a grease trap? Are they maintaining it? Is it functioning properly? There's multiple things that I think we've touched on, and I think they're all important, but I don't know that we really have concrete answers that we can have confidence in.
I mean, would you be comfortable if, as a condition of the approval, that they have the grease trap inspected and deliver that report to Mr. Costa for review?
Yes.
Okay. And I think the testimony thus far has been that the table's not being used for food consumption, but rather as a pickup area.
Yeah. I just don't know if there's, we're having clear communication and crystal clear understanding.
Well,
and I think, obtaining that we shouldn't be burdened with that, and I'd ask Mr. Barrett to make that happen.
I have no problem reiterating to the applicant exactly what they are allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. And we've had Ms. Lynn translate that they understand that they cannot allow on-site consumption of the food, and that the table is solely for purposes of acting as a counter to place the food for pickup. But again, I'll be happy to reiterate that to them, and I'll be happy to work with the landlords to find a solution to have some kind of a screen on the Bloomfield Avenue side. I don't think anything other than one side can be utilized on that site. There's just not enough room.
And Mr. Barrett, with respect to the screening, would you agree to have that screening be approved by the board professionals, the landlords working with the board professionals
Absolutely.
to determine the screening? Okay.
Really.
Okay. Councilman.
Chairman, one thing.
That's very helpful. Thank you. That works for me. Thank you.
To make it, okay, I was gonna say, otherwise, the board can vote to have Marina, prepare a resolution. But the resolution wouldn't be voted on until the next meeting. You wouldn't lose time. And it would be subject to them getting a sketch or something for the board to look at as far as the dumpster enclosure. That would be one way to do it, and that would put their feet in the fire, because if they don't do it, the resolution doesn't get adopted and they don't go forward.
Okay.
But it's up to the board if you want to put those conditions in there.
Okay, duly noted. Let's continue. I think we have Mr. Kanigo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I respectfully disagree with what Councilman Glass just said, and I think Mr. Barrett has been doing a very fine job tonight of asking the questions and getting the information out. As far as the dumpster is concerned, I have no problem with everything that the board has said tonight. As far as the tables, I got to ask everybody here, does anybody really think that if we added 2 tables to allow some of our kids to drop by there after school and sit down and have an egg roll or some Chinese food with their friends, for a half hour, is this really going to set, some sort of crazy parking issue into motion? Are 2 tables going to result in people waiting outside this takeout place to eat in? Or are the tables really going to give an opportunity to people who work in the area, who have an hour for lunch and perhaps don't want to sit in their office eating lunch every day, maybe just go and eat somewhere else? I'm really not that concerned about 2 tables. I understand that we have, certain rules and regulations on our books, but in the past, we've had River Edge. We have had a little bit of a reputation of being a little tough on businesses. Here we have a new business who's coming into our town. These people obviously want to be successful. Perhaps we do consider giving them a trial, a 3-month trial. And I don't think Mr. Depkin has to sit out there every day to make sure that it's enforced. If there happens to be a run, if this happens to be the greatest restaurant ever, and people will be sitting outside for 3 months, hours at a time, waiting, and there's parking issues, then, we can revisit it at that point. Certainly people will complain in this town, and rightfully, whenever they have an issue, at the drop of a hat. We get the complaints, the council gets the complaints, the land use board gets the complaints, we hear it on the tarmac. So I don't know, I would say let's give them an opportunity, especially because having been in this town for nearly 40 years and having actually gone to that restaurant before, and I know that there were tables there in the past. Maybe they weren't allowed, but there were tables there. So I'll just throw that out. Of course, if the board doesn't feel like it, that's fine. I understand the issues behind it. But is this really something that we should be saying no to just off the cuff like this? Maybe we give the opportunity to show that it can work without really bothering everybody, and possibly provide a little more income for this family who's coming in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kanigo. Mr. Gibbons.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I concur with basically what we've been hearing. I think the dumpster has been sitting in that spot for a very long time. And, I think looking at Google Earth, and it looks like there's room to put something there. As per the table, I think part of the problem, as what was brought up earlier, is if you have in restaurant dining, that you need to have bathrooms. And I'm not sure if they are equipped to supply that. So, that would be, another concern if we were to allow that. Allowing it on a trial basis, who's going to say really if it's working or not? It's very difficult to supervise. So I would think that, because of the space, because of the parking concerns, and because of the lack of bathrooms, that there shouldn't be tables in there. Although I know that there have been tables in there for probably 20 or 30 years. But it doesn't make that it was right at the time. So again, mostly agreeing with what we've heard already. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Mr. Merman.
I'm going to start with the hot topic. Tables versus chairs versus eating in. The applicant submitted photos. If you want to refer to the photos, the first photo on top shows a nice counter that has red on the bottom, and I'll call it beige or yellow, light yellow on top. That counter looks sufficient to me to put orders that have been completed, waiting for the person to pick it up. So I think that kind of answers that question about having a separate table for orders ready and no client yet. I agree with Mr. Depkin fully that if we add tables, we now have an issue of public restrooms. And I'm going to favor his comments and observations. Mr. Chenango talks about egg rolls and children stopping by. That's fine. If you just put a series of chairs, maybe three or four more chairs, the children can come in after school, buy their egg roll, sit in the chair, and enjoy it. So I think that's my outlook on the table chair situation, and I'll sum it up saying that there should be chairs only. As far as the dumpster is concerned, I understand that, and I would like to see it reworked. However it works back there, it's quite important. I'm going to hold up comments on a signage separately. I also noticed that from a parking standpoint, I would like that parking area restriped to whatever configuration you finalize. And I believe that it should not at this point have a handicap spot dedicated, because I think between clients and so forth, that the few spaces back there are important. Recognizing that, I'm going to move on to Mr. Costa. Raised an issue about a tree along the back. I would like the owner to address that, and I'll read verbally what Mr. Costa said. The applicant shall confirm whether there are any parking agreements with, no, not that one. Where's the tree? Here's the tree. Existing trees are located along the rear lot line. The applicant shall address whether there will be any change in the existing site lighting, any kind of reference to what might be happening to that tree, and so forth. So if we can get something on that, I'd appreciate that. What else do we have here? Dumpster line. The grease trap we could put into the resolution, that's no problem. Destroy parking. I'm just looking at my notes here, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I think that's about what I have. I think we should handle the signage as a separate topic. So I'm for chairs, no tables. That's the big issue.
Okay, why don't you hit your signage comments right now? Because I think we're at that stage.
Okay. The applicant submitted a I'll call it a rendering, a layout for a sign that measured roughly 16 square feet. I believe he wants to change one of the signs to that. The applicant should address the signage as far as lighting is concerned. And I'd like Mr. Barrett, well, I believe Mr. Barrett stated that the existing sign on the other face of the building is slightly oversized. If you retain that sign box, I have no problem. And I believe Mr. Barrett stated that the combination of the areas of the two signs was still within the permissible. And I can handle that little bit of wiggle room with no problem. But Mr. Barrett, you want to address the lighting for the sign?
Ms. Lim, would you ask Mr. Zhang? The lighting is internal, I believe. Is the light inside the box behind the letters? If you understand?
Yes, yes,
That's Tina Zhang answering that.
Yeah.
Yes, it's internally lit as it currently is, Mr. Murray.
Okay, and what replacements and new that you put in would be the same situation, lit from
Yes,
within? Okay,
correct.
all right, just for the record, okay. Yeah, so, yeah, that's basically my comments, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if we need to, call the slight deviation that might occur there as a variance. It doesn't appear so. And that's it. I'll yield back.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let's open to the public for a comment at this time. I'll take a motion from the board to open to the public.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cray. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, any abstain? This time, we're now open to the public for comment on this application alone. This is the application for Hang Zhang Inc. at 900 Kennecott Road. If there's anybody who wishes to be heard on this application, please raise your hand on Zoom or dial *6 on your telephone.
I don't see anyone.
Okay.
There are members of the public present, but nobody has their hand raised.
Okay. Couple more seconds. All right. That being the case, I'll look for a motion to close to the public.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Boland. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed and abstain? Okay, we're now closed to the public at this time. Any further comments, questions from the board on this application? Okay.
I just want clarify for the tables. As far as I know, my brother, Mr. Zhang, a couple months ago, he already had threw away all the tables and chairs for that 2 table and the 8 chairs. The previous business owner already being used for many years. They already threw away. So right now in the restaurant, they already been remodeled and it's almost done besides the menu part. And the living room, they just leave it as is. Right now, no table, no chair, nothing.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Any further questions or comments on the board?
I'm sorry, can I clarify the tree question? Do you want us to remove trees? I'm sorry. The comment about the trees?
So in our engineer's report, there was mention of a tree at the rear lot line. And whether that was on your property, I guess Mr. Costa, you had raised the question as to what the status of that particular tree was.
I think that's what it is, yes. Yeah.
There
And
are
if there
2
was-
smaller trees.
But I don't
that
think
have been
there's
there.
any, yeah, I don't think there's any improvements. I think that was testified this evening.
Okay.
Again, Chairman, well, they just submitted a survey, so. Again, you gotta wait for the testimony to see if there's any improvements, and if there are, then they obviously have to submit additional drawings, and I think that's what. One of the board members said tonight, if they don't have floor plans or something. And then I think it goes back to Steve, if you're gonna sit there and eat, then it goes back to the building code. So I think that's the clarity in itself. And again, I think if anybody knows me, my biggest peeve in the world is a dumpster behind any shopping center or retail facility. So do your best. And then if the board tasks me with making sure you do your best, then you really better do your best. But thank you.
Yeah,
That would be it.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no further questions or comments from the board, I'll look for a motion on the application.
Mr. Chairman, as usual, I'll try to start one.
Okay.
But, Mr. Barrett, can I just ask for a clarification? I suggested restriping a lot. You did agree to that, did you not?
Yes.
Okay, I thought I did. I just wanted to make sure. So regarding this application, which is Hang Zhang Inc., 900 Kennecott Road, Block 209, Lot 21. The proposed Chinese food takeout site plan approving required for food handler's license per the Borough Code. I'll make a motion that the board grant the food handler's license with the following conditions. That the dumpster situation be resolved and hopefully moved to a less intrusive location towards the rear and possibly enclosed. That that only chairs be installed in the public portion and no tables be allowed. That the sign be as submitted, and that the existing sign box with the other sign be utilized, both signs being internally lighted. And now, what am I missing? Further, that the grease traps be subject to inspection by the building department and for location and adequacy prior to the issuing of a certificate of occupancy. And I believe that's it, Mr. Chairman, unless I missed one item.
I think parking lot.
The restriping.
Restriping in the parking lot, correct.
And does the board want to allow one table for just to put
No,
the
no,
food?
My motion includes no tables and several chairs. The counter is gonna function as your holding for completed orders.
So if I understand correctly, we're prohibiting in-store consumption of the food by patrons, right?
It's only sitting at one of the chairs, no tables. So if a child or
So that would
passerby
be, would that be inconsistent with our code requirements?
well, but as far as code requirements are concerned, if you're gonna have tables in there, then according to Mr. Depkin, you're going to have public bathrooms, and according to Mr. Sabo, you're going to have to increase your parking.
Mr. Chairman,
I think if we have chairs there, the chairs are there for the purpose for our approval is just that for the pickup by customers who've placed orders and are waiting for their order to be filled. Whatever happens after that point is not our purview, so long as it's not being, if it's not, there's nothing there that's a facility for consumption of food on premises. Whether somebody decides to open their bag and eat it sitting there, we have no control of that. That's an enforcement issue, and that's not our purview.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Pfeffer.
Just to add to that, and really this is perhaps for Mr. Barrett to confirm or dispute, but my understanding is that the mere fact of eating food in the premises does not trigger the bathroom or the parking requirements. It's whether there is table service in the premises. So I don't necessarily have a problem with the motion because it's the applicant has already said that they're willing to just have chairs there. But I want to clarify the seeming confusion about if somebody is sitting there eating an egg roll on a chair, that's not going to trigger requirements that there be a bathroom access or have any impact on the parking. Thank you.
All right, let's, so, Mr. Merman, just to recap your motion. Ms. Steinle, would you mind just for the
So
benefit
it
of the board?
was to approve with the conditions that the signage will be the same as current, but just updated, the same size, internally lit. The grease traps that will be.
The sign size changes. You got two.
Oh, the signs are the same size as what they are existing. They're just replacing them.
Is that true, Mr. Barrett? I thought the other sign was bigger than the one that you submitted.
No,
No.
no. What I said was that both signs are the same size. That that according to the ordinance, the second sign is only supposed to be 50% of the first one. But,
Okay,
but in this
you're
case,
right.
they're both the same size.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, I agree to that. Yes, Ms. Stanley, that's correct.
Okay.
They're both the same size and they're both lit from the within.
Yep. Okay, then the next condition was that the applicants will confirm that grease traps are existing and in working operation before the issuance of a CO. Table service will be prohibited. Chairs will only be for waiting. Screening of the dumpster will be provided, and the applicant will work with the board professionals to confirm, and the applicant or the landlords will restripe the property or parking lot.
Yes, I believe that was it. Now, I got one further thing. Mr. Costa's report notes that there are previous variances, existing variances. Should we just note that they exist, or just ignore them?
There's no site changes, so I don't think we need to go into those.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I would agree with that. They're not intensifying existing non-conforming conditions, so I don't think you need to acknowledge it beyond what has been identified by Mr. Costa in his report.
Very good. Okay, I believe that was it, Ms. Finley.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
That's the motion.
That's the motion that's been presented for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Pfeffer. All right, Ms. Steinle, when you're ready.
All right. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Knigo,
Yes.
Miss Councilman Glass,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Best of luck to you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
他是不是已经过了？是不是？
we're going to move
Hi.
now into the second item under new business this evening. It's applicant is Martin Moline, properties 800 Summit Avenue. This is block
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Yes, sir.
I believe this is a D variance, so I believe Councilman Glass and I must withdraw.
Yes, you do. And you stole my thunder as I was about to let you go as soon as I finished reading the caption. But seeing the hour, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Councilman, appreciate your time this evening. Since this
Thank
is
you, Mr. Castley.
D variance, we wish you a good
Thank
night.
you to everyone on the land use board. Appreciate it.
Okay, have a good night, gentlemen.
I got
Okay.
this came up on my screen. I want to see.
Okay.
No, just the first application that popped up.
So, Mr. Merman, if you would just mute yourself for one quick second. There you go. Okay. Applicant is Martin Moline, properties 800 Summit Ave, block 206, lot 11. Application seeking approval for a proposed pool house, pergola, outdoor kitchen, and with an existing garage, guest studio for a variety of variances. Good evening, Mr. Barrett.
Mr. Chairman, can you release the Zhangs so they can go? I don't think they realize they can go.
Yeah, Mr. Barrett, if you want to.
Ms. Lynn,
them.
we're
They're
all
welcome to stay,
finished.
but they can.
So you guys can leave, and you know, we can talk at a different time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your help
Thank you,
tonight.
Mr. Todd. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Good night. Thank
Thank
you.
Good
you.
night. Good night.
Hey.
The wonderful world of Zoom. Mr. Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe that most of you are probably familiar with the property. It was formerly owned by Bud and Virginia Cordaway. 800 Summit Avenue, sometimes known as Edgecroft. And I'm looking through my notes in order to tell you that somewhere I made a copy of an article that I wanted to tell you about. Anyway, I think as we all know that the Mrs. Quarterweg was known as, was not known as, but had a title of Master Gardener, having proven her abilities in the garden area, that the gardens of the property were registered with the National Conservancy. Gardens were opened once a year for public viewing. And, you know, regrettably over the years, due to deteriorating health and other reasons, the property itself began to deteriorate. The property was on the market for over 2 years before the Molines came along, and are now in the process of restoring it, hopefully to its former grandeur. The property was, the home was originally constructed around 1920, and it was purchased in the early 60s by Bud and Virginia Quarterweg. They spent a lot of time restoring it. It has terraced gardens, and some of the koi ponds were actually constructed by Bud Quarterweg himself. One of the things that I had forgotten was that Bud led the fight to prevent the complete paving of Lincoln Ave, which is, you know, part cobblestone still. In fact, you know, in the winter they have to close it off when it snows because it's too slippery to drive on. There are 100 marble steps from the house down to the existing pool house. In this article I read, the steps were a backdrop for several movies featuring silent screen star legends such as Tom Mix and Pearl White. That was an article that appeared in 2012. As I said, the Molines came along, fell in love with the property that had been admired for many years by Mrs. Moline and her family, her parents. And the opportunity came along where they were in a position to not only purchase it, but to restore it, which is significant. You know, as I said, the property deteriorated over Mrs. Quarterweg's latter years there, and it finally ended up where pipes burst, ceilings fell, and it took the right people to come along and to purchase it. So the issue we have, the property lies in two zones. It's in an R1 zone, the western half of the, not even half, western portion of the property is in an R1 zone. And the eastern half is in a C1 zone. Now, I think that what happened was when the tax map was drawn in 2001, a mistake was made. A straight line was drawn along the properties north of Lincoln, and that line included 800 Summit. And the tax map line was then used to prepare the zoning map so that the 800 Summit was divided, whereas the other properties were properly zoned. Those on Kindercamac on the east side, the west side of Kindercamac, were properly zoned Z1, and the ones on Summit were R1. Had someone been familiar with that particular piece of property, I believe if the tax map had been drawn correctly, the zoning map would have been altered to allow the house to remain completely in the R1 zone. Because it's not, in order to have the residential accessories of the pool house, et cetera, we need a use variance. We're ready to have our planner testify as to the satisfaction of the criteria in order for you to be able to grant that variance. We're dealing with a very unique property. It is, if not the largest residential lot in River Edge, certainly one of the largest. It's a little bit over an acre, 43,000 some odd square feet. It's 289 feet deep from summit down to the car club that you approved, because that property is only 57 feet deep. What else do I have? That if we look at this as if it were zoned entirely residential, we would be looking for a coverage variance of 0.5%. When finished, the house, the garage/studio, the proposed pool house, the pool itself, some of the statuary, the 100 marble steps that we spoke about, the driveways, etc., would all equal 35.5%. We have a different criteria in the C1 zone. There you're allowed impervious coverage of 80%. Obviously, we're nowhere near that. So I think that what I'd like to do is call upon Mr. Moline at this time to tell you what it is that he's intending to do with the property and to lay the foundation for our architect after that, and then ultimately for our planner to wrap it all up and to justify the requests that are being made tonight. So Mr. and Mrs. Moline.
Okay, so why don't we swear in everybody who we anticipate will be giving testimony, and that way we have it covered.
Thank you.
So Ms. Steinle,
Right. If you please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
I do as well.
Oh, okay.
And Mr. Moline, could you just state your name and address for the record?
Absolutely. Martine Molinet in 95 Jefferson Street, Weehawken, New Jersey.
Thank you. And Mrs.?
Renee Andrea Arnaudo, 95 Jefferson Street, Weehawken, New Jersey.
And could you please spell your last name?
A-R-N as in Nancy, A-U-D as in David, O.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So now that I've been mispronouncing your name all these months, Mr. Molinet, would you tell us your journey to date?
Absolutely. First and foremost, I actually do want to tell you that I've never been part of a meeting such as this. And it is amazing the kind of level of detail and the amount of work that I can see the team here and everyone else is putting in. So thank you. And thank you for welcoming us to this particular meeting. About a year ago or so, my wife came to me. We were living here in Weehawken, and she said, I think I found the dream house. At the time, our kids were 9 and 5. They are now 10 and 6. And I said to myself, you've never told me you found a dream home. Let's go see this thing. And what she showed me was the carcass of the most beautiful thing that could exist. Yet when you looked inside, you would be shocked at the kind of unfortunate condition it was in. I kind of said, hey, we are fortunate enough to be able to make some changes to this place. This place is absolutely amazing and unique. Let's get to know the town a little bit. Let's get to know the school area. Let's get to know that. And if we love all of it, let's do it. She loved all of it. I loved all of it. We are not part of the community yet. We really look forward to being part of the community. Andrea goes there almost every day to the construction site, which is the main house at the moment. Speaking of that, I think, we want to build a home there to live there till whenever. I want to be there till the end of my life and or my family's entire let's call it run. We love the area, so we're building a home there that's going to give us 30 to 40 years. In addition, I've invited Andrea's parents to live with us. They are in a health condition that I think they need a lot of help and support, and we're willing to give them that. I want them to live with me. I want them to feel very comfortable there. So we're building really a new home inside of that beautiful facade that is there today. That's been approved, by the way. I don't want to confuse anyone. The application here is about the reality that the pool is, I don't know how many feet, but it is 100 steps to more downhill. So if we're enjoying the pool as a family, with friends, with really acquaintances, whomever, townspeople, going back up to the home because we forgot our plates and our utensils and just enjoying the pool is extremely difficult, and it's all uphill, particularly for her parents. So I thought to myself, this place has already been used for residential purposes. There's a pool there. We want to ensure that the landscape lends itself for my kids to play, for guests' kids to play. And we want the pool house, this application is about supporting gatherings and the use of my family to enjoy the existing home that we bought. I hope that summarizes it okay. And of course, if Andrea, you want to say anything, please go ahead.
You said it well. Thank you.
Thank you for the time and the offer to speak.
All right, now, Mr. Costa's office sent us a review letter, which I will find. I just want to go over some of the points with you. There were some questions that were raised, and I'm sure the board has some. So, Mr. Juarez will go into more detail as to the exact nature of the pool house, but briefly, what's going to be included there? What did you ask him to include for you?
That's a question for me, correct?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Apologies. No, it's okay. So at the moment, we're building a structure that can support essentially a gathering of individuals by the pool, and at the same time provide me with an opportunity to remain healthy and do some personal work with my computer. So I think of it as from the right, we're going to have an open kitchen moving into a indoor dining area with an indoor TV space, sort of a small space next to the dining area, a gym, and a room that I call the office, or my office, where I would simply sit there and answer emails, much like I do today on the table of my living room.
So you're not gonna have anybody you do business with come to your home or to the office, is that correct?
No. The office is it's just a name. It's essentially 4 walls where I get to sit and write emails without the yelling of lots of children.
So is it similar to someone who, as you said, you were sitting at your dining room table normally, so you're just moving the dining room table down there?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't provide any professional service or anything. I would never have a client or anything like that in that space.
Okay. And the renderings that were submitted show, some outdoor dining as well as some lounge chairs. And a question arose as to whether or not that area was going to be finished, whether it was going to be, brick pavers or anything of that nature. What's the intent right there in that space?
Yeah, the intent is to have an outdoor space. I don't know if this matters at all. We're Argentinian. We like to be standing on grass and nature. So there is no paving. There's nothing to be done there. If anything, it'll be a table on grass and chairs on grass.
Okay. And then the property currently includes a garage above which is a studio apartment. Assuming the board approves it, how would you used the studio apartment, which by way of background to the members of the board, some of you may well be aware of this. That was the residence of Bud and Virginia's son, Christopher, for many years when he was staying at home. He didn't stay in the house, he'd stayed in the apartment. And I mean, I'm speculating that at one time it probably was used for the help back in the heyday in the 20s and 30s. It was a carriage house, and above it had living quarters. And in those days, that's how things were done. But in any event, how do you intend to use the space?
From what I'm hearing from you, I think similarly. I think it's about out-of-town guests of mine that are staying overnight. The space is essentially another bedroom, right, from the home. So if my brother from Florida is over, that's a really interesting space for he and his wife to stay overnight.
Oh, you're not intending to rent the space out?
Oh, no. No.
So it's solely for personal use?
Absolutely. Yeah, everything in the home is going to be that way, and to share with friends and family.
Right, okay. I think that for now, let me just look at Mr. One of the comments was the plans show, and again, Mr. Juarez can address this as well, but I know you're intimately familiar with the property. There are stairs which currently go from behind the pool, the existing pool house, down to the level of the upper story of what is now the car club. And you're going to be filling those in, is that correct?
Yes, that would be the plan. I'm certain, not an engineer of any kind, but we will absolutely hire the right people to do that, to fill that area in so that it becomes the perfect foundation for this structure.
Okay, and right now there's no the former direct connection from your property to the car club, that's been sealed off, is that correct?
That's right. The gentleman, our neighbor, he sealed what was once a door that connected the car club to the very end of my property. So he sealed that off with gray brick. That there's no longer a connection.
Okay. And again, from a historical perspective, at the end of Bud Quarterweg's workday, he would climb those stairs up to the house directly from, what was called Coachworks. I think
I'm sure that's how he stayed in great shape.
Right, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with that. If you visited the property over the years, and if you knew Bud. Okay, I think that we may have to come back to you on some of those, but let's take Mr. Gunn's. Are you any outdoor lighting is going to be installed, or what do you have any plans on that at this point?
I don't think I've discussed or thought about outdoor lighting at the moment. I would imagine there shouldn't be, right? The lighting is going to be inside of the structure. But there has to be some lighting for nighttime walking.
Right. Okay. But none of it'll spill out onto the street or impact the neighbors in any way. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. And I think at this point, and I had meant to do this at the beginning, if we could just, Ms. Reeder, if we could just show the board the zoning map and the tax map, since my level of technology isn't adequate to do that. Okay, so we see here, the upper drawing is the tax map, and you can see where it's a, I'm sorry?
think there's
You
just
should
some
be fine.
feedback.
I
Oh,
think it's because she wasn't muted. Caroline wasn't muted, but now she is, it seems.
okay. So the, as I say, the tax map shows lot 9.01, which is the car club, being much larger than it really is. And this discrepancy was resolved back in 2012 to Mr. Costa's satisfaction, and it resulted in the properties being properly assessed. That's what led to the discussions. At no time was lot 11 reconfigured in any way. It's been that dimension since at least 1939, because I have a deed from that date conveying the car club property to someone and showing its depth at 57 feet way back then, 85 years ago. So when the tax map was drawn, the straight line there that goes all the way out to Lincoln, that then was used to prepare the zoning map. So if we could see that.
Mr. Barrett, I'm sorry. We have to mark this as Exhibit
Oh, I'm sorry.
A1.
Yes, thank you.
I'm gonna just label it as a lot line tax map exhibit. And this was prepared by who?
Kevin
Ms. Steinle,
Weaver?
it was prepared by my office, T&M Associates.
And the date is just today's date?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right, and I don't believe the planner was qualified, so just you were sworn, but could you just provide the board with some background on your qualifications and licensure?
Sure, happy to do so. So Caroline Ryder with T&M Associates, I'm the planning group manager there. I've been a licensed planner since 1996 and a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners since '98. For over 25 years, I have been a planning consultant working in municipalities, generally speaking. I presently serve as the borough and/or board planner in the boroughs of Emerson, Oradell, Haworth, and Gloucester, as well as Oakland and Bergen County. I'm a planning and affordable housing consultant to Wayne Township in Passaic County, as well as the borough of Fanwood in Union County. There's more if you like it.
That's all right.
Any questions from the board on Ms. Rita's qualifications? Okay, thank you. Mr. Barrett?
All right.
Thank you. So we'll get back to Ms. Rita. I just wanted the board to have a sense of the property and what happened in 2001 when the tax map was drawn. And as I say, it resulted in the zoning map showing the same lines. And again, I think that had someone looked at the properties, this one being unique, it's understandable why the line was drawn the way it was. But if they had been familiar with the property, they would have said, well, no, the tax map goes here. And then the people who drew the zoning map would say the same thing. It's all, it's all residential property. In any event, I think at this point, we'd like to call upon the architect, Mr. Ngali, and his associate, Mr. Juarez, to talk more about the improvements that are contemplated, subject, of course, to the board's approval.
This is Salvador Juarez at 21 Chelsea Drive, Oak Ridge, New Jersey.
Mr. Juarez, I'm going to need you to turn your camera on, please.
Okay. All right, and I'll have to swear you in because you weren't on video before. If you please raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. So 21 Chelsea Drive, and what was the town?
Oak Ridge, New Jersey.
All right, and could you provide the board with some background on your qualifications and licensure?
What?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm working. Go ahead.
So I think that's Mr. Angali who, because Mr. Juarez works for Mr. Angali.
Oh, okay.
Under his supervision.
All right, will you
Although-
please just spell your last name for us?
Juarez.
All right. And your associate is he going to be testifying as well?
Well, actually,
Julia,
Mr. Juarez is going to be testifying. Mr. Angali, who's currently muted, but also under the name Juarez, he's standing. You have to unmute
Yep,
yourself.
I see. But will he be providing testimony?
I don't believe so. I believe, Mr. Juarez, I think you're providing all the testimony. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, then that's fine. You can just proceed, Mr. Juarez, with your qualifications.
Yes, so I've been working in architecture since 2008 in various types of projects in retail, residential, hospitality, and yeah.
And are you a licensed professional architect in the state of New Jersey?
I am not.
Mr. Barrett?
Yes, he's working under the supervision of Mr. Angali, and I'm sorry if I haven't been clear on that.
Okay.
So, Mr. Angali is the
Then
licensed.
I need to have him, all right, I need to have him sworn in.
Correct.
So if you please raise your right hand, sir, Mr. Angali.
Yes,
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes,
All right, and I need you to state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address for the record.
Julius, first name, middle initial J, Hengeli, Hengeli, Jr., 27 Pizzola Road, Hamilton, New Jersey, 08690.
All right, and could you provide the board with your qualifications?
Licensed architect, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, for over 30 years.
And it's current and good standing?
Correct.
All right. Okay, now that that's clear, sorry about that. I wasn't understanding.
Questions from the
All right.
board on the architect's qualifications?
Yes. C-7441.
Thank you.
Okay. You can proceed, Ms. Barrett. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Juarez, if you could tell us what's being proposed?
We're proposing to enlarge the existing pool house structure, which is about 358 square feet. The new square footage is about 1,886. So we're adding about 1,528 square feet to the property. As Martin said, the pool house is located a ways from the main house, which is approximately 200 feet, actually. The new pool house structure will be 106.25 feet wide by 17.75 feet deep, which is the same depth as the existing pool house. And as far as the lighting proposed, we're mainly going to be doing some path lighting to to light up the paths when they're walking back to the main house from enjoying a night at the pool house. Maybe some exterior sconces, but nothing something with a low light and warm light, and obviously it'll be turned off at a typical normal hour. And I think that's it, right? I think Martin pretty much went through the floor plan as far as what we're planning in terms of the spaces. The the kitchen, I just wanted to point out, is more, it's an outdoor kitchen. It won't be part of the interior space. It's going to be just covered by a pergola structure with a retractable awning so that they can keep it open when it's good weather, and close it if the sun gets to be too much. So we're not providing anything as far as cooking in the interior spaces. Just one restroom for them to use when guests are in the pool house, or when Martin is working in the office.
All right, and so currently that area is serviced with water, gas, electricity, and plumbing based on your observations. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, the existing pool house has one restroom that is currently tied into the existing sewer system. There's water supply there. The pool has a heater that also has a gas line connected to it, and I believe that's it. And electric for the pool house as well.
Okay. Now, for the moment, it may sound a little convoluted, but I do have to go back to Mr. Molinet for a question. I think it will help the board as they consider things. And the question is with respect to the water. I understand you've had a conversation with your neighbor, the car club.
Did you have that, or did you want me to go?
I did, yes. He stated that the water to the pool he believed came from his property, and that was either annulled or not working anymore.
So you are going to have to then put in a water line to service that.
Yes.
All right. And and in fact, when you purchased the property, you also it came with a 3-foot easement at the northerly end of the car club property from your property out to Kinderkamak Road. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And that is for utility purposes.
Yes, it is.
If you need to tie in either the sewer or the water or whatever.
That's correct.
You do have that access for those services. Okay. Back to Mr. Juarez. Is there any plan to change the grade that currently exists for the pool house?
No.
That's going to just remain the same.
Correct.
Okay. Are there any plans to remove any of the trees that currently exist on the site?
I believe on the south side there may be a tree that needs to be removed. In which case we would either relocate it or plant any new trees if there's any requirement for anything like that.
In order to screen it from Lincoln.
Correct. Yep.
Because that would be in the area of the outdoor kitchen. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so I'm sure that the Molinets want to retain their privacy, so they would plant whatever's necessary there to screen themselves from anybody walking by. Okay. Back to the Molinets. Are there any changes planned to the existing pool?
No changes to the existing pool.
Okay. And any new walkways to the proposed pool house?
No new walkways.
Okay. And if necessary, you'll have a conversation with your neighbor with respect to the removal of the stairs in case it had any impact on his property?
Yes, absolutely. I think that that conversation is a must, and I think that coordination with the neighbor is imperative and must happen.
And his property actually is about only 2 feet, less than 2 feet from your property line, based on the surveys that have been done and the improvements there.
That is correct.
All right. So right now, you don't have any plan for any additional screening along Lincoln or along the northerly property line, but you'll do whatever's necessary to maintain your privacy and to also, to shield it from any neighbor. The property to the north of you, that's really the driveway for that property, I believe. Is that correct, based on your observations?
I think that sounds right. I also would add that it's not just about our privacy. It's really about ensuring that, let's call it the entirety of Kinderkamak Lincoln Summit have no eyesores and things look and feel good.
Thank you. Right, I don't currently have any further questions for either the applicant nor for Mr. Juarez. And again, I don't know if the board wants to question them at this point or if we should move forward with the planner.
Why don't we take this opportunity to ask some questions? Actually, let me start with Mr. Depkin, if I might.
Yes, thank you. In regards to the pool house, there's quite a bit of I'm going to say areas, and will this be used as any rentals for parties or weddings or things of that nature?
I'll take that one. Absolutely not. Zero rental, zero income, and it's all about enjoyment for family and friends.
Okay, very good. Thank you. On the plans, SK01P has existing pool, and then there's some circles around that area. Is it a covered? It says covered pool. Is that a permanent covered pool? Is there a structure above it, or what actually is there?
So it's some existing columns around. I believe most of them are decorative. The ones that are on the western side of the pool have, I believe, a light pergola structure over them, open pergola structure, and it's part of the character of the house. So the intent would be to try and retain them and restore them and have the front facade of the pool house kind of integrate within the same language that the existing architecture has.
Okay, thank you. In regards to back to the pool house, those areas, there'll be no sleeping or bedroom areas?
That is correct. No sleeping, no bedrooms.
Okay, thank you. In regards to the existing garage and apartment above, that will be used for family and guests only?
Yes, sir, Mr. Depkin, only family and friends.
Okay, thank you. Have you considered, with the lot coverage being what it is, doing some sort of permeable pavers for the driveway area in some areas?
I'm not sure how to answer that question. I apologize. Maybe Sal or...
Sure. I think if that becomes an issue, I don't think that they would be opposed to integrating some type of permeable paver system to the driveway if it's required. But again, I think that driveway is also part of the existing, the character of the house as well.
Okay.
And we would want to retain that if possible.
Okay, very good. Yeah, beautiful site. I'm glad to see that someone is, taking the area on and keeping it as such. I have no further questions.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Depkin. Mr. Zabo.
No real questions. I'll defer to the planner's testimony.
Okay, very good. Mr. Costa.
I guess I mean, a couple of things. Obviously, you're gonna need a grading plan. You're gonna need stormwater management, obviously. But one thing, and maybe just clarity for Mr. Juarez. You said that there's there's water, there's gas, there's sewer, but then you went on to say that, or Tom did, or someone did, that you need to go through the neighbor's property through an easement out to Kinderkamak. Do we know? Are we sure? We're not sure.
But we're not sure. We have to find out. I have a vague recollection of a conversation that I had with Virginia when she was selling the car club property to Manny, that she needed to retain easement because I don't know if the sanitary sewer from the carriage house / studio, I don't know if that goes out that way. I don't know if the sewer, we have to find out, Rob, to be honest, where it goes. We know it exists. We just don't know where it goes.
Okay. So how do we find that out? Yes. How do you get to that?
But I think that what we can do, if we could have that as a condition of any, assuming the board is willing to grant an approval, have that as a condition that we have to satisfy you that those services are being properly provided or will be properly provided.
The only, yeah, I understand. The only concern, Manny is almost finished, it looks like, with his renovation.
Right.
The idea that you're gonna go through the property and
it's the northerly end. I don't think there's anything up there. It's the northerly 3 feet.
from my recollection, there was a wall along the northerly 3 feet, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I think the wall divides the property.
And if it's a 3-foot easement, how do you trench and get 3-foot easement? I don't think that's gonna work, is what I'm trying to get to.
Okay.
But again, I'm sure if the board wants to approve this, obviously you're gonna have to submit construction drawings to the building department. But I think it's necessary to figure out how you're gonna service everything that you're proposing to go in there. And whether or not you gotta go out to Lincoln, whether you need to tear that up, whether you're gonna, if there is no sewer, if it's cut off because of the adjacent property, how do you do this? Do you pump it up the hill? Do you go out to Lincoln?
Well, again, I think that anything that needs to get done would obviously come within the purview of your review, and of course the building department. So again, I don't think that it would preclude the board from acting. We just have to find that solution. We just right now we don't know what it is because the Molinese did not want to, proceed with getting those plans drawn up if their application wasn't going to be approved.
I'm trying to help you in another way, because I don't know if you advertise from the adjacent lot. So if you have to go through there, wouldn't that come into, you'd have to notice from that lot also?
So if Mr. Barrett if the plans have to change in order to accommodate utilities, the applicant has to come back with different plans. So right now, we're under the assumption that the utilities are fine where they are. And it's up to the applicant to confirm that if any approval is made, they need to confirm that no matter what.
Okay, so Mr.
But, I
Barrett,
mean, other than that, again, grading, stormwater management, as far as the building itself being constructed, the stairs, the removal, whether or not that's gonna impact, and again, the architect can certainly chime in structurally, and I know Mr. Merman is a structural engineer, but the proximity of the two structures, obviously, I had a professor, you build a bridge, the bridge falls down, no partial credit, so that's all. So you need to look at that to make sure you don't impact your neighbor in that respect.
Mr. Juarez, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I think we're going to retain the services of a structural engineer to have that properly done, and we'll coordinate with the civil engineer as well as far as whatever the drainage requirements are going to be, and if we need to add any kind of drainage for the footings or retention tanks or whatever it may be, we're willing to comply, obviously.
But again, it's up to the board, whether they need to see that now or whether they want to treat it through the soil movement application. Okay, that would be it, Chairman. Thank you.
okay, thank you, Mr. Costa. Let's take questions from the board. Let's start, Mr. Cray.
Just two questions, really. One, the garage, and that's located with the sleeping quarters. Is there like kitchen facilities in that building as well, or is it just like a bedroom and a bathroom? Or I mean, what's the interior of that garage?
Sure, I'll take that one, Mr. Cray. There is currently, think of it as a studio apartment, essentially, because it does have a rundown kitchen. There's definitely gas there. There is a full bathroom and some space to sleep. There is no bed there at the moment, but essentially, I hope that answers your question.
Yep. Okay. But even though it's got all that, you said there's no plans to ever rent that as a separate unit to somebody.
No.
Second, I'm not sure who to ask this question to. The drawing that's noted as SK01P is titled Enlargement of Existing Pool House and Outdoor Kitchen Paving. I thought I heard that there was not going to be any additional paving. Is there paving that's going to be added or expanded?
Just whatever's under the what's it called, the outdoor kitchen area where that would sit. Nothing past the existing front facade of the pool house. So I think the items that were in question were the outdoor dining, the circular table that we were showing, and the outdoor lounge seating area.
Mm-hmm.
So in those areas, we weren't proposing any new paving.
Okay, so the new paving is just essentially the outdoor kitchen.
Correct.
And then the expansion, it's not really paving, just the coverage, additional coverage from the expansion of the pool house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gray. Ms. Boland? You're on mute, Ms. Boland. Ms.
You're
Boland,
on
you're
mute,
on
Ellen.
mute.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Most of my questions have been discussed. Only thing is looking at one of the photos that you submitted, but where on page 9, the existing garage, it almost looks like it's a used car lot. Are you planning on doing any, allowing any renting parking spaces or?
So outstanding observation. Andrea's family is in and has been in the used car business for over 20 years. So her father has used car dealerships in Route 46 and most recently has moved to Union City. When he downsized, moving to Union City, I was just a little too nice. And I said, hey, look, if you need to park some cars in that area for a little while I'm doing construction, go ahead, because I'll be doing construction probably for 6 to 9 months. So he's placed some cars there. And on a daily basis, he may take away 2 and then another one a week later. So absolutely not. But you did see exactly what you saw.
Okay. So it wouldn't be done, once you're finished, you don't plan on using
I
it?
already, all right, I already made that very clear to him.
Okay, great. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Boland. Mr. Gibbons?
I don't really have much to add, beyond just I'm happy to see someone restoring this property, not turning it into something else. It's a beautiful property that deserves to be preserved. Just one question, really. The existing pool house, is that as close to the property line as what is proposed?
Yes.
Okay, so we're basically following that same line along the back property.
Correct.
Because my question would be, have you considered making it compliant? I understand it's commercial property behind you, but was there any consideration or any thought to putting it into compliance? I forget what the number needed to be on the back setback.
I can answer that if you want, Sal,
yeah.
or you can from your perspective. So my perspective is much more of a layman. I'm using the space perspective, not an engineer or any kind of architect. So if you were to move forward, let's say 1.5 to even 2 feet to make it compliant, Mr. Gibbons, you would be encroaching very closely on the pool. So the pool would probably have a 2.5 or 2 foot clearance from the structure to the pool. And that felt really tight. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, we did consider it though.
Okay. And the garage, so that there's no real additions to that parcel, right? We're just, obviously you're going to make it nicer, I'm sure, inside. But you're not making any bigger, you're not making any wholesale changes to that structure, correct?
That is correct. No changes, no wholesale improvements other than indoor, making it nice, as you said.
Okay. All right. I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gibbons. Mr. Knigo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have much. I'm thrilled that you're coming in. I'm thrilled that this property is being rehabbed and you're bringing it back up to its former glory. Welcome to town. Here, it's a terrific town. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Knigo,
Thank you.
Mr. Pfeffer?
All my questions have been answered. Thank you. It looks like a great project and you look like great neighbors. So I second what Mr. Knigo said. Welcome to the town.
Thank you, sir, very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pfeffer. Mr. Merman?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have, first of all, a little assignment for Mr. Barrett. I would like to see, prior to the board making a motion on this project, that you submit a report from a licensed engineer regarding the existing retaining walls throughout the site that are in satisfactory structural condition. That includes all your walls on the perimeter, the interior. You got some pretty tall interior walls there too. So I would like to, I'll give you a heads up now so you can get going on it. I have one thing for the architect. If you look at your site plan, and if I say that I have people down at your pool area or your new pavilion or expanded pavilion, if something happens, something happens in the way of that they can't exit up the hill, I want the architect to look at an alternate means of access, egress rather, from that pavilion area, preferably out to the street. Maybe you got to put a stair in there with something down to the sidewalk on Lincoln. I want you to address that in the meantime and come back with some proposals and alternates, including 4 sections. I could see where this could be a potential life saving issue from an architectural standpoint.
Agreed.
Mr. Chairman, at this point, that's my major comments on the site. I think it's great. I know this site. I've visited it many times when it was in its highlight, and attended functions there. I'm quite familiar with it, including the studio area. And so that's all I have for the architect tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Merman. Given the hour, it's 9:51. We have a curfew in place 9:45. I think this is probably a good juncture to call it a night. Mr. Barrett, I know rather than start the planner's questioning, if that is acceptable to you, we'll carry this on to or continue this on to the next meeting.
To June 12th, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Alter, I believe that's the case, yes? June 12th?
I would say the next meeting, we have another D variance, a commercial property. How about 6/26, June 26th? That's also the other D variance that we carried from the last meeting.
Ms. Steinle?
The June 12th meeting, is that we carried the other application to June 12th, or is there something new?
Yes. That would give you enough time to have plans redrawn if you need to be.
June 12th or 26th, Mr. Barrett?
Well, June 12th, I have a commercial application that's a D variance. That might take quite a while. We can fit you in, but I don't know if we'll complete
Just
it.
the planning testimony?
Yes.
Right, and we need to retain an engineer to give a report on the existing walls. And then Mr. Juarez and Mr. Angeli need to design some alternate egress out to Lincoln, is my understanding.
So the 26th may be a better fit.
Right.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Is that acceptable?
And Carolyn, you available on the 26th? I forget.
Yes, I anticipate I will be available on the 26th
Okay.
as well.
And Mr. Juarez, that'll give you enough time to come up with a design and after consulting with the Milanese as to some type of emergency egress out to Lincoln?
Yes.
Okay. Martin and Renee, yes. Martine and Renee? Good?
Yeah, June 26th is a little bit of an issue because we won't be in the country, but I think we will take the call at 4 a.m. from Greece.
Oh, okay.
Or whatever time it is.
At least you have a nice sunrise.
Or
while we're going
if
on.
we need
something.
Ms. Steinle, do we need anything?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Merman?
For your June 26th meeting, I'm going to be out of town. So if Mr. Barrett can get those assignments to me ahead of time, I'll be glad to review them.
Okay.
But I won't be available for the 26th meeting.
Okay.
So just so Mr. Merman, you want the retaining wall report and the other walls on the property and the egress issue?
That's correct.
All right.
And I just know, yes, I'll be glad to look at them
When-
ahead of
when
time
you-
if you have.
Yeah, when are you
them, but
leaving, just so we know?
Excuse me?
When are you leaving?
I'm leaving on about the 22nd, 23rd.
All right, just, yeah, this way we'll know when we need, yeah.
Right. And if you want, I can pick them up at your office.
Okay, I can call you.
Okay.
Ms. Steinle, do we have any formalities?
Just we'll do a motion to carry to the 26th.
Okay. So if I could have a motion from the board to carry this application being Martin Moline, 800 Summit Avenue, Block 206, Lot 11, to the June 26th meeting of the board.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr.
Second.
Davis. Thank you, Mr. Cray. Can we do a voice vote?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
good.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, any abstain? All right. This
All right,
application-
so the formal notice is that this application for Martin Molinet, 800 Summit Ave, Block 206, Lot 11, will be carried to the June 26th Planning Board meeting without further notice.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Steinle.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Thank you,
Thank you,
folks.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Everyone have a nice weekend.
You the same?
Enjoy
Uh,
yourself.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a great night, everyone. Thank you.
Hold on.
Night all.
Thank you.
Hold on. Don't, board
Have
members
a
don't
good
leave.
holiday.
Mr. Merman, you wanted the floor for a brief moment?
Yes, to the board.
We
Let
can
me
leave,
know
Mark.
what,
The rest of
Let me-
the rest of you can take off if you'd like.
Thank you.
Mr. Merman.
okay. Board members, we all know that the Dunkin' Donuts site has been completed. It's been open, it's been operating, and I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, have visited the site. I have on several occasions, and the purpose of me visiting this site was to review and do a critique on particularly myself and some of our considerations, how they worked out. And they seem to have done quite well. I know Mr. Costa had a huge headache with that wall. But from a standpoint of the board members, I think that your efforts have turned out well. You're to be congratulated. And I want to be the first to say that I'm proud of what was accomplished and how you gave very good input, and it seemed to have worked out quite well. So, fellow board members, I'm proud of your efforts, and I just wanted to state that because I believe in telling people when they did something good, if you're going to tell people when they didn't do so well. So, once again, you did a great job. You'd be proud. You did good for the community. And end of a statement.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Merman.
All right.
Board members. With that, any further business from the board? If not, I will thank Mr. Zabo for pinch hitting for Mr. Burns this evening, and
My pleasure.
I will look for a motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons. Is there a second?
Second.
I got Mr. Cray. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed and
Aye.
abstain? We stand adjourned at 9:58 p.m. Thank you all. Have a great weekend.
Right. Enjoy the holiday.
Take care.
Take care. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.